Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pastor Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos, and Eva and Boom Boom are just going cray-cray. So thank you for the late night edition. It's now 10:30 on the West Coast.
What time is it in Russia? That's
it
all I
is
care about.
now 8:30 in the morning. So
Moscow.
maybe our friend Mark Sloboda is waking up, having some nice coffee, some eggs, who knows. Quarantine going crazy in Moscow. That should be a new album.
Okay.
Crazy in Moscow.
Ooh.
So who do we have here real quick? I'm going to take that one off real quick. We are on the ROKFIN tonight too, ladies and gentlemen. It's free. So if you have an account, go over there. Join up. ROKFIN, ROKFIN. We just did our Wednesday exclusive where you can only find it on ROKFIN. We had a game show today. We had Poppy Chulamin. Thank you. Nico House and Fiorella. And Fiorella is now the two-time champion.
I am. Nobody can beat me in trivia.
And
Let's
Glory
see.
Jones.
Glory Jones.
She's getting some gifts and whatnot.
She is.
So if you haven't gone over to ROKFIN, please do so. We have 36 people right now. All the cool peeps. Allison, how you doing, girl? Good to see you.
Hi,
Gamer
guys.
for life. We love you. Trickle on in. Like, share, subscribe. You know, we couldn't finish the day unless we said the things we needed
I'm
to
a
say.
workaholic, you guys.
Well, no.
Like,
That's not true. She broke up with somebody yesterday, and now she got a smear.
no.
She got to smear that.
I have to. I did a live stream on Facebook. I'm gonna post it on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you
Tell
guys
us
can
what your
listen.
ex Bernie's doing right now. What's that son of a bee doing?
Oh, stop.
Now he's going after your girlfriends. Let's get a relationship breaks up, and now he's gonna go after your girlfriends.
Not just my girlfriends, but our boyfriends too, Pasta. So
My boyfriend, your girlfriend.
okay, so
Sorry.
I just it just throws me off when you call him my ex. I'm just like, wait. I mean, it is kind of like that. I mean,
He is your ex. We
it
had a
really
show here
is.
on my 47th
it really
birthday.
is. Yesterday,
You broke up with Bernard Sanders,
I did.
and I guess you were right,
Sorry,
girlfriend, because this dude is now smearing
He's
your
not
girl.
smearing. He's just.
Oh.
Let's really talk about what it is, because I think she was really classy about the response. What we're talking about is Brianna Joy Gray, and she went on The Hill Rising, and she pretty much was asked, like, what is your opinion on what Bernie Sanders said? What do you think you could have done different, etc.? But I want to start with something, because this is a bigger story. There are a lot of things that are connected here, and I want to start off by going back to the part that we didn't show on our show, where Biden and Bernie talked about task force. And it's a circular story, because we're going to touch back on that at the end of the show. And do you remember what Bernie Sanders said regarding the, quote, task force he and Biden were supposedly working on for weeks? And this is at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And this is when, he's endorsing Joe and he's thanking him and blah, 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 and that they need to unite against Trump. But he specifically talks about this task force that they had been talking about for weeks.
Yeah, well, it's crock of shit when he said
And
that.
in that regard, I have been very pleased that your staff and my staff have been working together over the last several weeks to coming up with a number of task forces. These are task forces that will look at some of the most important issues facing this country. The economy, how we create an economy that works for all, not just a few.
Okay.
Education, how we
That's fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
create
We
the
don't need to hear
best
more.
Point out the
education.
fact that they're doing this bullshit task force.
Right. So
I need to go off on that app when you give me a chance. So let me
yeah, of
just say
course. So
some
let me
stuff.
just say something real quick. So what does this mean is the question I'm asking all of you. What do you think this means? And also, how does this play into everything else? And you can go off before I go into my next
Well, I
point.
just
You
want to say
wanna-
this thing about this task force once again is just
Mm-hmm.
you have to have another understanding at the end of the day that sitting in a room, and I saw somebody out there put out, let's put together a meeting for organizing. Like, I'm done with the task force and the organizing. And I'm not saying that sitting in a room and coming up with solutions is not okay. It's what you do from there, okay? Implementing your ideas into law. We're way
into
past that. I
action.
don't want to hear Bernie Sanders talk about task force anymore. I don't care what him. Donald Trump is the one who's the commander in chief making the decisions now. Go show me how you're going to influence that guy to do what you need to do. Not sitting around and talking with each other, talking with other people who don't agree with you and getting it done.
I don't even think he needs to talk to Donald Trump as much as actually talk to his base, and he would have needed to take that and go and do the movement, the mass workers movement that a lot of us are going to do
That's another
anyway.
avenue if you want to do that.
But that's beside the point. So
the
no,
whole
you're
task force thing just pisses me off.
yeah. It's just irrelevant.
Blow hard air virtue signaling bullshit.
It's just irrelevant at this point. So let's just get into Bree Joy Gray, because I want to tie this all together. So she went on the Hill Rising to talk about what Bernie said. And at 1 minute and 9 seconds is when she answers the question of what's your response to what Bernie Sanders said when he said you're not on the payroll anymore. And you can even, if you want to show a little bit before that, you can. But
yeah, this is your girlfriend, Bree.
Yeah, I think if you look at what Bernie Sanders said, it was that it's irresponsible to decide you don't like Joe Biden and to sit out the election, to decide it just wasn't any of your business. And that's not exactly what I'm out to do. My objective is to push Joe Biden into being a better candidate, a more electable candidate, and a candidate that appeals more to a broad swath of Americans who we all know from poll after poll actually support Bernie Sanders' policies. So to me, saying that you want the guy to actually recognize that a majority of Americans support Medicare for all, saying that before you pledge fidelity to him, you would like to extract some concession out of the leverage that is the only leverage that we as Americans have, which is our vote, isn't irresponsible. It's actually doing what all of us what duty is incumbent on all of us as voting participants in this democracy.
Yeah. And so what?
So let's stop it right there.
I want to say something about that too.
Okay, so she's being really classy because, as from my observation of her as a person on Twitter and as a person that is answering, she's not going to badmouth Bernie. She's not going to go after him. But she is directly saying, look, like, I don't think that's irresponsible, and you're not sitting on your hands idly by actually demanding Joe Biden give you something for your endorsement, Bernie. Like, in other words, like, we should all, if you really want us to vote for Joe Biden, then show us if he's going to actually adopt something. You know, use your leverage. Bernie didn't use his leverage. That's the problem. He just endorsed Joe Biden without anything in return. There's zero leverage there, and he didn't do anything of it. Yeah. But I would even go further to say that at this point, it is completely irrelevant what Joe Biden has to offer, because there's no way we believe in anything he has to say. Anything he has to say is tied to the Democratic Party. They're not really going to give us anything, especially when Bernie Sanders gave away all his leverage. But I think the point she made is like, well, no, it's good, because she's like, well, I'm just doing what a normal person would do and want to ask for if you want us to vote for him, make him give us something. People are suffering right now. This is a responsible thing to do. It's actually irresponsible to sit on your hands and not go after him.
Well, let me say this much, because I really think this took away from the value or the validity of her statement, and that is that you ain't going to push Joe Biden anywhere. If we couldn't push Bernie Sanders to the left, how are you going to push Joe Biden to the left? And the winner doesn't get pushed to the loser's wants and needs, okay? I understand she's being political about it, being a classy person, saying this is why I said it, but I wish she would have had more of this. Like, no, I'm not going to endorse for Joe Biden, and nobody should at this point. He ain't going to give us dick. We're not going to vote for him, period. Don't even tell me that you're going to give me something. You know, you ain't going to give us nothing. So don't even listen. I hate it. I hate the virtue signaling and the bullshit. And
I don't think she's virtue signaling.
No, not her. I'm talking about from Biden. The other day, we need to get your policies. I need your help to govern too as well. Bernie Sanders is not going to get anything from Joe Biden. The Democratic Party has already demonstrated that they're not going to give an inch. That, in fact, when you try to push back against them, they're going to cheat even more and make sure they maintain more of their power, and they did so. So no more of thinking that we're going to push Joe Biden anywhere. Just, we're not going to vote for him. Period. At this point, there is no way you can come to me like Harry Potter with a friggin' wand and say you're going to hit something into a bunch of fucking gold if I vote for Joe Biden. It still ain't going to happen. I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden no matter what. He can't be pushed. He can't be moved. He should be 86th.
Jonny, can you just play the following clip, please? Yeah, just play. Yeah.
As voting participants in this democracy to what is going on there. So like I said in my follow-up tweet, I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. I'm looking forward to finding out that perhaps there's already been concessions that have been made that we just aren't privy to going on internally. I'm not on a task.
Which, in DC doesn't mean a whole lot. Do you feel like he should have pushed for more?
Well, I'm not privy, to what's going on internally. I'm not on a task force, and I don't really have any insight to what is going on there. So, like I said in my follow-up tweet, I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. I'm looking forward to finding out that perhaps there's already been concessions that have been made that we just aren't privy to yet. And I would be happy to hear about them and to continue to try to develop what Joe Biden can do to bolster his policy on climate change, given that he was given an F- by prominent climate groups. I would love to see whether he has.
Well, she's being
professional.
Yeah, she's being professional, and
I
respect that. Actually, I can tell though. I can tell.
I agree with you. I can tell too as well that she's like, I'm not on the task force. Like she kind of shunned the task force. Like I ain't part of the task force.
Why is somebody that has such a tie to millennials, is a millennial herself, has been on point this whole time? Bernie Sanders was very lucky to have Nina Turner, Brianna, and David Serrata among other people on his team. They were the ones that were always pretty much taking all the heat from the establishment and pretty much exposing themselves to defend Bernie Sanders and getting all this clapback, all this crap on them. And she basically is letting everybody know, by the way, I'm not on this task force. I'm not privy to this information. And I have a very serious problem with that. So who is? Is it only Jeff Weaver and Faiz? Those two people that have been absolutely detrimental to his campaign?
Simone Sanders.
Is that who? She doesn't work for him anymore. Are those
Biden, though, right?
People,
it's a joint task force.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, if that is the case, then we have the most toxic people between both campaigns involved. And that is something that should have never happened. And I think a lot of people have a serious problem with it. What task force? How come you didn't involve everybody else? And what I found out from my other sources is that Bernie Sanders has been keeping out everybody. And the circle was very small as to who got listened to. And that's precisely what he shouldn't have done. He should have expanded the circle to his base. And he acted like some of his campaign staff acted here, where they completely shut out the grassroots and only listen to the people from the top down. And if that's the way the campaign operated, that wasn't a grassroots campaign. That was an establishment-run campaign. And we've been talking about it here for weeks, how it operated here. So it's no surprise that at its core, at its foundation, that is how it's operating.
Yeah, Hoot Burns, thank you for the super chat contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. He says, Biden loses to Trump, confused neoliberals, but his task forces, right? I'm done with the circle jerk. Like I can see that Bree doesn't even believe in this bullshit. Once again, when you get together in a room and talk about shit, just let's learn how to govern. Let's learn how to govern, how a bill becomes a law, how you get a bill in motion and stuff, what we need to push for. None of the task forces anymore. People on the left go talk to people on the right if they're in charge. End of story.
Okay, so other than Bree, David Serrata was attacked today by an actual Bernie staffer. Now, I want to go over this because this actually goes a lot deeper. So let's read the tweet really quickly. This is Sam Stein, and he said, in his latest email brief, David Serrata acknowledges he wanted Bernie to go harder on the contrast with Biden, and that Bernie declined to do it so occasionally. Serrata doesn't tone down his feelings towards Biden either. And this is from Serrata's article, and I'm going to read a couple pieces from it. And he said, at other times, the campaign backed off and did not seize opportunities to explicitly and continually spell out big differences between the candidates. Ultimately, Biden was able to avoid having to constantly try to explain his offensive record. Instead, he was allowed to depict himself as a safe, electable, quote, unity candidate.
Unity.
Was it fun to always be the one people pushing the campaign to be more aggressive and also eating shit on Twitter for supposedly being, quote, toxic for simply tweeting a few videos of Biden pushing some grotesquely retrograde policy? No, it was not fun. I have more gray hair and less stomach lining because I pushed. I'm no hero or martyr, but I can tell you it was awful, excruciating, and heartbreaking, but it was necessary. So, anything to say on that comment?
No, it's just the same thing we kind of found out from Stoller. It's like, it just seems like Bernie would not let people in his staff take the gloves off and go, get pushed to take the gloves off and go after Biden from the get-go.
Yep.
And here's David Serrata, who we all love, eating shit for going out there and simply telling the truth. and saying, well, you shouldn't say that you should, the Zephyr Teach Out shit again.
Yeah.
It just sucks. And it almost makes you think that Bernie is really too liking of Biden and Schumer and Pelosi and these other assholes. So, I mean, I can go on and start cursing about this all day. I'm starting to think that this is the guy up top that some people were talking to that was really trying to get into Bernie. I bet you Cornel West was. I bet you Nina was. Like, hey, man, you got to drop the gloves and go after this guy. This guy calls you a liar to your face. You can't say, oh, people go look. You have to say, Joe, you're a liar. And I have to question your dementia when you're saying these kind of things. Something of that magnitude, but he refused to because why? Joe is my friend. And when he said Joe is my friend, we were doomed from then.
So I just want to point out, so there's a link to the Substack, Serrata.substack, whatever. But I want to point out the 3 things he criticized. 1, 2, 3. And we have it on the screen here. We have the picture. And he said, 1, Bernie is a deeply principled lawmaker. And I agree with all these points, by the way. But he is not a scorched earth politician and never has been. Since he was first elected to public office, his approach is one that seems defined by a belief that to make a real change from the outside, you must push hard, but always maintain one foot inside the power structure and not try to burn it all the way down. The calculation is that if you are too adversarial against the establishment, you will be instantly marginalized, depicted as irrelevant, and disempowered. Side note, as the primary results will show, the problem with this theory is that even if you are too nice and don't go scorched earth, the power structure has other ways to defeat progressives. And he's entirely right. And by the way, that's the Nader comment. Bernie hasn't even talked to Nader in years because he wants to avoid being Ralph Nader. That was one of his mistakes, as David intelligently, accurately outlined.
Yeah.
Number 2, he said, as he himself said, Bernie likes and respects Biden. I personally don't believe that affinity is justified considering Biden's legislative record, but I'm not going to litigate that point. It is what it is. Again, obviously, Bernie has a soft spot for Biden.
Why?
Other people like Tulsi have a
Tulsi,
spot.
why?
We don't get it. And it's in spite of his record. It's like he literally, he has hurt the people that support you, Bernie. Like, isn't that enough? I guess not. Number 3, the Democratic Party has manufactured a culture that creates the conventional wisdom and, you just read the rest.
Of conventional wisdom and perception that any efforts to contrast opponents records from the left in a primary is negative and therefore destructive. And that's why 1 and 3 right now are kind of full of shit.
Yeah.
They really are, because that's the narrative they want to keep. Therefore, that it tames any progressives within the movement, like an AOC, a Rashida Tlaib, a Tulsi, from going scorched earth. But you got to learn from what just happened. I talk about the Freedom Caucus, the way they got in there. Like, you know what? We're not going to move on our values. They made the Republicans, Boehner and them, cry. The left should have done the same thing. We needed someone to match Donald Trump on his own turf from the left.
Yeah, and
with populist ideas that can bring people over from his own base.
But also, it's just the fact that you can't even have that discussion because they automatically label you as a MAGA person. They automatically say that you want Donald Trump to win. So but you got to, what do you do to fight through that, fam? You have to go after them and say, this is gaslighting. This isn't okay. And you stand by people like Serrata, like Nina Turner, like Zephyr Teach Out. All of these
Tim
people,
Canova,
all of them,
people
who are sticking their neck out for you. You don't validate those criticisms of the Bernie bro. And he's defended us against the Bernie bro narrative to some degree, but it was never enough. It was not enough as much as he was okaying it. And so did AOC when she went on The View. She was like, well, we can't do that and blah, blah, blah. And she validated that whole thing.
David Serrata.
So this thing gets juicier because, and in a negative way, not in like a TMZ way, because what happens is there was a staffer and nobody knows who he is yet. And I'm trying to find out who it is, but I have my ideas just as he does as to who is the staffer. He said, I'm hopeful the person who said this has the courage to identify who they are. I think I know who they are, but it would be good for them to come forward and be honest so we can have the debate and conversation in public. So this is because
thank you, David Serrata, by the way, for saying that. David Serrata is trying to keep this conversation going. He's trying to expose this for what it is. He's trying to take a learning lesson. And even though we don't like David Serrata when he gets his blue, no matter who, this is something right here that needs the conversation needs to continue, because we really haven't, we never exposed what happened in 2016. We stopped having a conversation about election integrity. Right now we have to have a conversation about progressive campaigns, because moving forward again, we can't let this happen again. There's got to be an uproar. Like I said, fam, next time we see a little thing that we might go, maybe we shouldn't say anything because we don't want to fuck things up. No, we got to flail our hands in the airs. So when this person who's coming forth now has to come forth at the time, because we got to call it when it happens and stop the bullshit from going through, because we kept on kicking the can down the road and saying, well, maybe we can get past these mistakes and maybe we can do it. We can't.
No.
If the grassroots doesn't have a big say, if you don't have a grassroots campaign and you're going to be connected to the establishment, you're fucked. So I wish this person would have come out when the shit happened. So sorry.
Well, this person is actually attacking David. So, but So I wish people would have come out before. A lot of people
Who's the person you're looking for, though?
I'll give me a minute. I'll explain it. So a lot of people were hesitant to talk about all the issues in the Sanders campaign because they thought it would negatively hurt Sanders. I think in the long run, it actually hurt him more when that we did not address this. So this was a former senior Sanders aide and who said, what's clear from the sniping over the last few weeks and solidified by today's newsletter is that for David, this campaign was always about David. Ugh. He's finally getting the attention he so badly wants. And this is a former senior Sanders aide, but everybody's a former aide, which means that it was somebody from this term. And they continued, but it's sad that in order to get it, he's torching the senator on the way out the door. Okay, so we really don't know who this is, and I want to know exactly who this is, and I'm trying to figure out who it is. But here's what we're seeing now, and I just want to go back to the disagreements we saw in the campaign. So we knew that there were some disagreements in the campaign. We've spoken about it before because we saw the press team being more against Warren, against Biden, doing the dirty work and doing what should have been done all along throughout the whole campaign, differentiating between Biden's record and Bernie's record. They were pushing the narrative on that. Then we also recall the whole thing with Cenk that happened where Cenk, some people endorsed him, some people didn't. It was this whole mess. They completely disagreed on that. Then we can go to Matt Orfalia and how that was mishandled. Yeah. And then we can go to other things like how some of the endorsements were handled and kind of mishandled, actually. And so we see these narratives throughout the campaign where they've been at odds, and there's definitely obviously been tension between the people in the campaign. And now that's led to what we have now, which is where we're seeing that it wasn't as a cohesive and unified campaign as they were making it out to be. And all of this gets worse because it seems like, as we discussed above, Bernie planned on dropping out for a while. So remember when Tulsi endorsed Biden and what she specifically said? Because I want to go back to this. It's very actually important now in hindsight.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. It's like 2 minutes, right?
No, I'll cut it off, but you can just start it.
That highlights the inextricable bonds of humanity and how foreign policy and domestic policy are inseparable. We are all in this together, and we must all rise to meet this moment in service to our country and our fellow man. This is not the first time that we have faced adversity together, and it will not be the last. After the terrorist attack by Al-Qaeda on our country on 9/11, we stood together as Americans, motivated to serve, marshaling our forces to defeat our common enemy. I and so many Americans all across this country enlisted in the military to do just that. Likewise, today, as Americans and all of humanity, we face a common enemy. It is once again time as Americans and as neighbors in this global community that we stand together once again and work hand in hand to defeat this new enemy, the coronavirus. Throughout my life and throughout this campaign, my motivation has been to serve God, our country, and the American people as best I can. I feel that the best way that I can be of service at this time is to continue to work for the health and well-being of the people of Hawaii and our country in Congress, and to stand ready to serve in uniform should the Hawaii National Guard be activated. Now, after Tuesday's election, it's clear that Democratic primary voters have chosen Vice President Joe Biden to be the person who will take on President Trump in the general election. I know Vice President Biden and his wife And I'm grateful to have called his son, Beau, a friend who also served in the National Guard. Now, although I may not agree with the vice president on every issue, I know that he has a good heart, and he's motivated by his love for our country and the American people. I'm confident that he will lead our country guided by the spirit of aloha.
Are you okay?
Sorry.
Okay. I just want to.
Good art.
I just want to. After that, she went on Jimmy Dore, and when he asked her, "Have you spoken to the Sanders campaign?" she said, "Yeah, but I want to keep that to myself."
Yes.
And that was sometime in March, was it not?
Late March.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe like mid-March. I don't know about late March. Yeah. Well, and she didn't, he asked her again and she's like, no, I want to keep that by myself. So Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden have been doing this task work for weeks. And when she said he's a presumptive nominee during that interview with Jimmy Dore, it seemed to me that she was definitely of the belief that he was. Because of this, now I'm questioning, like, did the Sanders campaign say, hey, by the way, we're dropping out, blah, blah, blah. So can you, like, you can do whatever you like, but we're dropping out soon. Yeah. So, and if that is the case, she offended, by not opening her mouth and by not saying anything, she literally didn't make Bernie look bad. Because if she would have said, oh, by the way, Sanders is dropping out, so yeah, I'm going to endorse Joe Biden, people would have been like, oh, okay. And they would have been like, what the fuck, Bernie? Why haven't you told us, right? But by her not saying anything, now I'm left to the, like, is this what happened? Because now that makes more sense as to why she would endorse somebody that stands diametrically opposed to everything she supports. Yeah. And, you want to read the super chat?
Yeah, I was going to read it in a second. But, I mean, also just kind of going on what you said. Because, Is that the last thing right there before we go into that next section? Mm-hmm. Okay, also on that, too, we also knew the campaigns were talking to each other. We didn't know what was said. It was confirmed that on Jimmy they were talking. But, once again, nothing was confirmed because Tulsi Gabbard said, a mensch, right? Just a good person, keeping your mouth shut. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to leave this be. Yeah. That's it. Between each other, but we also had conflicting reports from what was going on because I think Bernie Sanders' whole campaign from top down to the bottom kept everything confused.
Well, they said we're good. Other people very close to the campaign said no, we're going to go to the convention. Yeah. But what was obviously happening was there's two things going on. There's people that wanted him to drop out. If you guys recall that Fies and Weaver were pushing him to drop out, I don't think that it was necessarily that known until later. And that's what I'm not sure. But I think that there was these two forces. One of them, Bernie, you need to keep pushing. You need to go to the convention. The Nina Turner's the other one. Yeah. Bernie, you need to drop out.
You got different information than Nico and Jimmy did. Because Nico and Jimmy got stuff from the top saying, Bernie's going to drop out in like 7 to 10 days and he's going to endorse Biden. And even, Nico was kind of saying it's a little bit different when Tulsi did.
It happened a little bit later, too.
It did.
Well,
I think it was held on a little bit with everything going on. And so it kind of strung it out a little bit, with the whole Wisconsin thing, maybe.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about next. Is the whole Wisconsin thing.
The Wisconsin thing that's going to come into play.
Because that was insane. That is disgusting.
The thing that is disgusting right now that's happening, and before we get on to this next section, it's that Bernie was never this much of a dick. Like, I can see him saying something in 2016, well, Brianna Joy Gray, she used to work for me, and I appreciated her so much, but I just disagree with her approach right now, and I'm going to support Biden, and she can do what she wants. But the fact that he was so just staunch and like, oh, that's my former press secretary, and she's not on payroll. Next question. It's just like this whole kind of different new type of Bernie that I don't like at all, fam, and it is really, it's sad.
It's jarring. It doesn't make sense. It is jarring.
That's a great word.
It just doesn't. It doesn't seem like the typical Bernie that we know. So
yeah. Well, Ben Riley, thank you for the super chat contribution. It's always a breezer on the couch. Fiorella and Pasta, Johnny, Sue, and Eva with Boomerang Late Night. Ben Riley says, "Thou says vote for Biden, lesser of the blah 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 blah. You should debate him, but come prepared. Good at debating like Destiny from Twitch." Who are these people?
I don't know who's Destiny from Twitch.
Eve, who's Destiny?
Do you know Twitch, Eve? No. Okay.
All right. Next topic.
So it's pretty much all related, but Obama, Biden, and the Democratic establishment obviously forced the Wisconsin primary to continue, and the Sanders campaign caved. So after all of this and leading up to the Wisconsin primary, there was this weird obsession from the Bernie campaign with a centrist Democratic judge. It was on a volunteer call outline that they were promoting this person, and they were talking more about him than Bernie or the process of voting, because remember, Wisconsin was still going through the primaries. Even though people were trying to stop it, they decided to do absentee ballots. Oh, at least you can get an absentee ballot. The problem was that there was too many requests for absentee ballots, so a lot of people didn't get it. There was also a problem with the Bernie Sanders campaign not really telling people what was going on in regards to the ballots. And then later on, Bernie went on and basically said, hey, don't go out there to vote, stay safe, which is a good thing to say. But now in hindsight, you're thinking maybe this was because he was already done. So here's an exchange. Okay.
On a super, if Ashley Hudson's telling you,
Let me see.
where's that at? I don't see it. Oh, yo, Fee, check your taxes with a line crying and crying. Thank you, Ashley. Texas is Ashley Hudson. Thank you for the super chat contribution. It is always appreciated on a cow family.
Okay, well, I'm going to check my text if you want to read some of those.
Well, that was the only one to read, so now that it's ready. But I want to say hi to Cyrus, Upstate Raider, Haza. I know on the ROKFIN we had Allison Irwin hanging on out. Guys, gone over there. It is free. Sign up, join up for us, and thank you for all the super chats yesterday for my birthday. I really do appreciate it. You guys were very, very generous. That helps the fam out.
So I'm just going to read a little bit of this that she sent me, and then we'll go into some of the emails, or you can even show some of the emails while I say this. So the whole point of the script, she says, is supposedly to get people to request absentee ballots for Bernie. And the script is focused heavily on Jill Karofsky. She was a Supreme Court justice at one against a Republican, and she was a candidate. And if you selected strong supporter or, quote, will likely support Bernie, it goes straight to the script trying to get you to support Karofsky. If you select, quote, yes on supporting Karofsky, you get a prompt to request an absentee ballot. If you select no, you are taken to the question, will you cast an absentee ballot for Bernie? But then the script just ends. There are no prompts which take you to the request an absentee ballot from any of the Bernie specific questions. So the only way you get to the absentee ballot is if you say yes to the judge, is what it's saying. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Even then, when you click the link to help the voter vote absentee, you are not taken to the absentee voter screen. Instead, you are taken to a generic voter registration screen. There is absolutely nothing about any of Bernie's platforms in the script. The only thing that exists are a couple of lines about how Bernie is responding to the coronavirus. And that's only if you select, quote, undecided. It is essentially set up to where the person you call likes Karofsky, you get an option for them to apply for absentee. If they don't, you don't get that option. And so this is also verified by my friend Melissa Michelson. Melissa was calling for people from Wisconsin, and the same prompt kind of appeared, and she didn't understand why there was such a heavy focus on this judge. Who is this judge? This judge is a centrist judge, neoliberal, and weirdly enough, they somehow won while Bernie Sanders lost. Now, this is really weird, you guys, because when you have low turnout, right, the conservative tends to win. The conservative didn't win. The Republican didn't win, but the judge won. And that goes completely out of whack with the fact that the more conservative candidate in the general, Joe Biden, beat Bernie Sanders, right? And of course, we know we have bathtubs or tubs, not bathtubs, tubs full of these absentee ballots that were never counted. We have all these things, all these people that never even got their absentee ballot. All of these things happened, as we know that when we covered the thing. But I just want to point out how in that whole exchange in the email that he was showing, basically the staffer was saying, oh no, it's fine, and then eventually admitted to, I get what you're saying, but didn't really solve the problem. And she was very insistent, saying, look, it doesn't make sense. The entire lead-in is about Karofsky, and when you select no, you're still directed to a question asking if you will cast a ballot for Bernie, and if you respond yes, you are given no prompts to help the voter understand how to cast an absentee ballot. This is a Bernie Sanders campaign, is the point I want to make. If this is a campaign, and this is a volunteer who's one of the hardest working volunteers I know, and has been on the Sanders campaign nonstop, and this is their best response, like, oh, there's nothing wrong, or okay, finally, like, they were like, okay, here's what we have, and that's it. Like, this is our dialer training video. Is this what you want? Like, she just gave up. It's ridiculous at this point.
Is there a
this is a campaign that spent millions and millions of dollars that millions of people donated money to, and they can't even get their own staffers to understand this, who are getting paid. A volunteer has to come in and tell you, hey, your link isn't working. This doesn't seem right. What's going on? They don't even fix it. And this is, of course, the result of the primary is Bernie Sanders lost. Like, I don't know exactly what happened. I know there was a lot of foul play. But at the same time, it is very maddening to me to see how this was handled by the Bernie Sanders campaign. And I believe this because I've experienced it myself. So has Pasta, when we have contacted the LA Bernie Sanders campaign, telling them about the voting issues here, and they completely dismissed us, entirely dismissed us. This is reminiscent and reflective of the entire Sanders campaign this whole time. Oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong. We're good. We got it. No, you don't. Obviously, you didn't.
You ain't got shit. And that's a macro of the micros that we saw, because we saw the same kind of shit we talk about on a national level. We experienced right here in California on a local level, from the local Los Angeles offices to the California state director to all the way up to Jeff Weaver and Fayez and all those pieces of shit.
And and it does seem like there was some sort of like, I don't know, some sort of like coalition to help this judge win between the Sanders campaign and the Democratic establishment of Wisconsin. Now, that is my personal opinion based on what I'm seeing here, and also based on this, fam. What is now confirmed, NBC News confirms that Biden and Obama were eager to have the Wisconsin primary go as scheduled, and were both prepared to publicly escalate Bernie against Bernie if the primary was moved. And they were willing to fatally infect voters with the virus to get Bernie out. That is the point, right? These people were willing to kill people, which probably people are infected now as a result of this. And it said, quote, here, Biden's campaign made clear that they were eager for the specific date to hold firm. Gee, I wonder why they were so eager for this date to hold firm. And they were prepared, if it did not, to shift their public rhetoric ever so slightly to turn the heat up for Sanders to take steps to begin uniting the party. Obama especially emphasized that in his conversations with Sanders, another source involved with the process told NBC. But Obama and Biden, as he has said publicly, never once themselves told Sanders to drop out. Okay.
Pulling the strings
you
from
can
behind.
Tell, you can tell someone to drop out in different ways without vocally saying it.
Exactly.
We're not stupid. Let's be real.
You get on the phone with Buttigieg right after South Carolina and tell him to drop out. And
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Why do you think they didn't want to, against all odds, switch the date of the Wisconsin primary? Can you
Because here's the why.
me?
And once we get it, and this is something out there, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention to when you get your statistics in from your county on how the mail-in votes are. Okay, because not only do they mess with that number, and they have all information. Just think about it. You're going to call a play, but you got information on what the defense is going to run. So now you have all this information. You have all these votes came in by mail. You can fabricate that number too as well, which I'll talk about down the road, not today. Like the Kennedy, they called the dead Kennedys. That's the thing. There were dead people who voted for John F. Kennedy. They got him over the hill in Illinois, where his daddy knew people, and in Texas, where Lyndon Baines Johnson. So you have all this information now. Now you got Biden in the bag with the mail-in votes. And like I say, I implore you, go look at what the mail-in ballots are when you get a chance, when your county puts the results up. I guarantee you they'll heavily lean towards Biden, okay? Not only are the early voters more conservative, but now you have all this information. So now I know that Biden's leading in my mail-in votes. I want to suppress that vote as much as I can. So I want to throw a primary in the middle of the COVID-19, because I know a lot of those young voters, they're not going to go out. A lot of those progressives, they're not going to go out and leave the house for a chance to get the coronavirus. So now I got all this information right here. So that's why they wanted to push to make sure that primary.
But they have the numbers.
They have the data.
They
and
have the data and the
beforehand.
information beforehand. So if you switch the date, all that goes to to shit. This is what happens. And if you think this is a conspiracy theory, I mean, just look at all this coming out right now. Look at what happened in Iowa. If they were able to create an app in Iowa, everything else after that is absolutely possible. And people admit it.
Yeah.
They got caught red-handed with the app. But everywhere else after that, they were able to manipulate it, except Nevada.
Pasta.
Except Nevada, which was a caucus.
Pasta, that's not true. They're not allowed to count the mail-in ballots until the day they're supposed to count. But what did they tell Raji Robb? What did Jeff Klein say? Oh my God, they slipped. They said they already counted.
Yeah, they admitted
that they counted them early.
They counted them early here in California.
Let me read some super chats real quick. Because
Sure.
The Life of Brian says, "Negative of a super chat contribution is always appreciated on the couch." You know The Life of Brian, guys. We got to watch it. What's your name? Brian Cohen. It's a Monty Python about Brian is the guy who died on the cross next to Jesus. It's awesome. Bernie is being a jerk because he's not running in 2024. The only constituency he needs to please now is the DNC. Keep It Real just says, keep it real. They give it a super chat contribution. Keep it real. And GDNPB, what does that stand for? The DNC told everyone in 2016 they select their candidate and then we go vote for them. Not a surprise if you pay attention to the DNC.
Yeah.
They are our enemy. And that is so much true. They in a courtroom. And that's the thing, fam. I forgot to mention that to Michael Tracy when he's like, well, what proof do you have? Well, how about admittance?
Yeah.
If somebody told you they murdered somebody and yet you don't have physical presence, but they said they admitted it, you'll still throw that person in jail. They admitted it. Well, the DNC admitted that they can go in the back room
And they're
full of
still
cigar
free.
smokes and pick who the fuck they want. And Miss I Justice, thank you for that lovely super chat contribution. It says, happy birthday, Apostle.
He only gets one day, okay?
Hoot Hoot Burn says, I guess I'll bring up, while we're here, texters who got replies demanding Bernie drop out were advised to write info@berniesanders.com and tell them.
So people were allowed to go to write him to drop out. Interesting. Okay.
And that's it for the super chat contribution.
So on the next one, we have the Twitter link, and there's a couple of pictures in that. One of them is repetitive, but the second one is Ben Mashiv, and he says, since this is getting some traction now, unfortunately, the piece is hosted on a live blog, so you have to dig through the link to find the article. Here's a screenshot of the article title. The incriminating shot is buried on paragraphs 7 and 8, and it says right here, Mike Memel, Gary Grumbach, Andrea Mitchell, and that.
Sotomayor.
And that's where it is if you guys want to find it. And let me see. He said, I deleted this tweet because I may have read the article too cynically. Read it for yourself. It is on page 2 for now on a live updating blog. Title is attached below. So there's the article link. We can probably post it on the chat. We can post it underneath the description so you guys can go read it. It's through this whole thing. You have to dig through here and then to find the article, which is I don't know who's going to do that. But that's
so what did they bury exactly, fam, just so I know?
Well, it's just this whole thing about the Biden campaign and Obama being very adamant in keeping it. And I don't think there's anything cynical about that. I mean, I think it's just in plain sight. Like, obviously, it was up. They wanted to entirely go through with it because it served their purpose. It didn't matter how many people were infected or hurt by this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that tying all of this together, what I think happened is that Bernie Sanders, it's for weeks has been since March is what it said, has kind of been talking to Biden's campaign, which is, to me, it's insane to me that he let knowingly these people go out and vote. And obviously it's not just him, but I mean, come on, like, yes, you told people not to go out, but a lot of these people are loyal to Bernie. They were going to go out anyway. And regardless who they were loyal to, the fact that anybody went out in general is a crime. That whole thing. I mean, now we're finding out that the campaign, and this is what a lot of people felt, Bernie had given up a while ago when he said Joe Biden can win. You know, like that's
Joe is my friend, and yeah,
and he
I
can
think
beat
that Joe
Trump.
can beat
Like,
Donald Trump.
no, that's when you're like, okay, why are you there for? What's the point of voting for you? And another person that, of course, I think is a hypocrite and goes behind the scenes and really, you know, she didn't endorse Biden up until now.
I know who you're talking about,
but she actually did through her actions. She was one of the people. And one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders lost on Super Tuesday, too, even with the rigging and all that, if she had dropped out before that, he would have taken at least Massachusetts and a few other states here and there. But it's the fact that she didn't drop out that really hurt him election-wise. And I'm talking about Elizabeth Warren. Obviously, Elizabeth Warren now recently said, in this moment of crisis, it's more important than ever that the next president restores Americans' faith in good, effective government. And I've seen Joe Biden help our nation rebuild. Today, I'm proud to endorse Joe Biden as president of the United States. And of course, she plays this video about Joe Biden and blah,
It's got
blah,
2
blah.
million
I don't want
views.
to hear it.
Is it a good video, fam?
No.
Is it going to make me want to go vote for Joe Biden?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh my God! You know, it's got, once again too. It's, I think that the damage has so been done to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren too as well. You know, I mean, you know, Matt Stoller told that story about Elizabeth Warren striking fear into Timothy Geithner's soul, and I like that. Timothy Geithner's a piece of shit. He's one of the Wall Street guys, Larry Saunders, that was hired by Obama when we were like, what the F? You just hired the same guys from, you know, Bush's cabinet, the guys who push for derivatives and all those faulty swaps where people, you know, it just insider trade moves that are disgusting.
Center for American Progress people, why are you hiring those people?
Yeah.
Like, why are you surrounding yourself with establishment people trying to run a grassroots campaign? Same thing here. The establishment led the campaigning. Do you think that's going to be effective when we don't organize the same way? It just doesn't work. And Elizabeth Warren, of course, like I said, I believe she endorsed Biden a long time ago. She just wants to be the progressive darling.
She's not going to be the progressive.
And
She's damaged.
they're trying to make her be like, oh, look, she just endorsed Joe Biden after Bernie, right?
Yeah.
You think that's all by coincidence? No, guys. They're manipulating things behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Obama, of course, is manipulating a lot. And
Pulling
so,
a lot of strings.
just like with Hillary Clinton, that we found out that she was perhaps offered a possibility of being a VP, it seems like Elizabeth Warren is really looking at being a possible VP option for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Let's hear what she said.
I think the Elizabeth Warren campaign, too, really damaged herself as far as being a progressive, especially when people, like on this show where you were pointing out the money, where it was coming from.
Yeah.
It was really damaging, not only the green bombs and stuff like that, but then you come to the CARES Act and that decision, too, now, where a lot of people were saying, well, listen, the reason why I supported Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders was her kind of position she took on the Senate floor. Well, she even fucked up right there. Now we have more of this, of trolling, of kind of hanging out to try to get that VP. You're scheming to try to get that VP thing. So I think her brand is damaged as a progressive going forward as well, too. Please play the video. I'm so sorry I had to get that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look at her fake-ass smiling
Up on the
face.
ragged edge of the middle class.
No, that's
No,
Joe
not
Biden.
that
I
one.
know.
Elizabeth Warren endorsing.
The Macaulay one.
Yeah, that one.
You don't want to hear the Joe video, fam?
I'm good.
And you just start laughing when you hear his voice and you see him shaking. You dog-faced pony soldier. You lying dog-faced pony shoulder.
If he asked you to be his running mate, would you say yes?
Yes.
If he asked you to be his running mate, would you say yes?
Yes.
Look at her face. Okay, so to her defense, she is a woman of color, so Joe Biden could technically pick her as a VP position. He did say it would likely be a woman of color. So there you go, guys. I think they're so stupid and arrogant that they think picking a Kamala Harris or an Elizabeth Warren or Stacey Abrams is going to help them. It's not, though.
You think it's Kamala Harris, right?
I think it's Kamala Harris.
I think it's Kamala Harris or Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams is a big
is a
Obama guy. So I think that,
girl,
come on, Joe, now I'll give you two choices. Kamala or Stacey, but Stacey's my friend. Stacey Abrams couldn't say a sentence without mentioning that she was good friends with fucking Obama. Yeah. Brandon Adams says, Biden embracing elites and bashing socialists equals Trump. Guess what? Biden as a nominee equals Trump. It's over.
All of this is interesting. Elizabeth Warren, all of them coming together, talking about uniting to defeat Donald Trump. I can take it from everybody. But Bernie Sanders, seeing Bernie's tweets and seeing Bernie with Cardi yesterday, she pushed back is a conservative. He doesn't really align. But at the end, she was like, yeah, we're all going to unite to defeat Trump. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nauseating to me. It makes me want to literally get sick and throw up, because that is not who Bernie in 1986 would have been promoting. I know Bernie is more of a reformist, and I agree with David Serrato's point that Bernie was never a burn the ground kind of guy. And when he was campaigning, he was acting more like a senator than he was acting like a presidential candidate running against somebody. But at the same time, I know that the fighter in Bernie it existed at one point, and I think what one of the reasons he did lose was because he lost sight of that. He became very focused on the centrist narrative of identity politics, of not attacking the Democrats too much, so you don't seem like you're with Trump, because if Trump attacks the Democrats in the media, you can't do that, Bernie, because that's going to make you look just like him. And yes, he would have gotten the vitriol, but he got the vitriol and the hate anyway. There's no point, nothing to gain by playing nice to the Democratic establishment. At this point, you have to choose, and he didn't stand by that. And I'm so happy now I can see people like Sarada and Brianna and a bunch of other people that are going to start coming out of the woodworks really talk frankly about how they felt the campaign went and the things that could have happened. And, you know, they are still respectful about it. They're like, well, this, you know, it was still the most progressive campaign ever because, look at the state of our country. We're pretty much right wing.
Yeah. Well, it's disgusting, too.
It's awful.
It's really bad because I don't understand how the Democrats didn't learn from what happened with the Republicans. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's right there in front of your face. This whole mentality that we have to play within the Democratic Party and their rules and their elites to win. Eventually, when we get power, we'll change things. It doesn't work. The Freedom Caucus on the right made Boehner cry. That led the door open for a person like Donald Trump to say, look at this. There's Republicans in their own party that are raging against their establishment, and a lot of people are standing behind him. Standing behind him so much that they just took out the number 2 Republican in Congress, and Eric Cantor. We found something here. This is what we got to do. If we go anti-establishment, rage against the machine, that's what will get us elected.
That will defeat Donald Trump in a landslide.
The rallies. Oh, we're going to take on the pharmaceutical companies. Yay. We're going to take on the military-industrial complex. Yay. We're going to take on the Democratic Party. Wow. It was much louder.
Yeah.
You heard it. That's what people want. Bernie moved the opposite way this time. He also moved to get a certain base within the Democratic Party, left other people out.
A very small echo chamber of a base that doesn't really determine the general. You can win, and Bree said this too on Rising, you can win a campaign with big numbers on the Democratic primary and still lose big in the general if you're not really listening to anybody outside of your little minute base.
Yeah.
And that's what's likely to happen with Joe Biden.
Oh, he's got no shot in my mind. There was a couple people who said some really interesting stuff up here because Upstate Raider says Abrams is Bloomberg approved. Something to keep in mind. That might be a good choice. Joe is my friend, says me 25. But listen what President Jafar said here. They believed and peddled the Modi bullshit, but was silent when Kamala and Obama were closer to Modi than Tulsi. And you know what? Joe Biden is also close to Modi, too, as well. When Obama was having that bromance, Joe was working the back doors with some other people as well. Not to say that that's awful, but, you know, that's what I'm saying. It's that they hit after Tulsi, but they didn't go after Biden.
But I just want to say, it's disgusting. It was disgusting seeing Neera Tanden thank Tulsi after pretty much smearing her the whole time. It's disgusting seeing Neera Tanden thank Bernie Sanders after literally being one of the most horrible persons driving all that disgusting smear drivel against Bernie supporters, against Bernie, the sexist remarks, all the things. It's really, really gross. And I'm trying to figure out what is the mindset behind tolerating that, because he has to know, and I'm sure he does, because Levy's over there tweeting about how, you know, Cardi B is endorsing this, and AOC said to vote for Biden, and Cardi B said that, and you know,
did AOC already say that?
Of saying, yeah, she said something.
No, already,
but she wants him to respond to the rape allegations, which is something that I'll give her credit for that, because a lot of people haven't even remotely even said that. Bernie himself, I mean, that to me bothers me. He never once even acknowledged that at all.
Yeah.
And his press team did. Brianna Joy Gray has not stopped in talking about Tara Reid. So there's again that like inconsistency with what should have happened and who was right on the money and who was advising him in his inner circle. That was not.
Let me say this much too, but that's again, you have to mention this, you have to adjust this, you have to apologize for this, Joe, you have to do that, Joe. No, you ain't got to do nothing, Joe. I don't give a fuck what you do, because I ain't voting for you regardless what you do.
We're not.
So I'm at that point right now, so I don't care what you acknowledge.
But it's stupid for him not to do it.
I don't listen.
You know, it's just stupid.
I don't give a shit what he does at this point, fam. He can address everything and say I've changed religion.
It won't change the fact that you were not voting
exactly.
for him.
I'm never gonna fucking trust you. Vote for you anyways.
No.
So please,
I think it's
progressives trying to move him left. Stop it.
I think that's a futile idea, because you have zero guarantee and zero leverage to say that he's going to move in any way, shape, or form.
Zero leverage.
Like, there's nothing there. There's no reason for him to do that. So I think that is a losing battle. And I think what we as progressives should focus on, and this is my personal choice, is to have a movement that will not only not vote for Joe Biden, but actively campaign against Joe Biden. And that is something I think we need to do. No, I'm gonna slap you. Oh my
well,
God.
no, that's what they're gonna say right now. If you're not gonna vote, if you're gonna vote campaign against Joe Biden, you're campaigning for Donald Trump. Fam, how could you do that?
You are giving yourself a false idea that you only have two choices because this is how the establishment is blackmailing you. They're literally telling you can only vote for one of these two shit sandwiches, and that's not the case. What you can do is either not vote for whatever third party you want. Of course you are. Whatever
vote
third
Green Party?
I'm not voting Libertarian. Hawkins? I'm not voting for him either. I'll decide who I'm voting for, if at all. But what I want to say, more importantly, is that do not vote for Joe Biden and come form this working people's movement that is going to demand election reform outside of the electorate. Because until we get that, we're not going to have viable third parties. Yeah. We're not even going to have viable elections because elections aren't going to happen. And we're still following up on the election stuff. We're still getting news and talks, ideas, election integrity specialists all the time. We're still going to push on that because the moment we shut up about it, people are just going to forget, and we can't let it happen again.
Derek says, and thank you for the super chat contribution, Derek. It is always appreciated. On this couch, he says, hey guys, keep up the good work. Just one thing, it's Serota, not Serrata. Let me say this much, Derek. I'm Italian. It's Serrata.
Pasta, Serrata, pastata.
Biden has no shot. In your mind, he also has no mind. Yes, Jameson Doan, he has zero mind. The guy has lost it. And I really thought that Tulsi Gabbard, when she was still in it before this whole coronavirus, had to come to a point where she's going to say, listen, I can't vote for this guy. He's unstable.
That would have been, that's my bone with her is like, even though I think I'm far more angry at Bernie than I ever was at her because Bernie was, first of all, he was my candidate. And he had the responsibility to continue this for all of his supporters, to take it to the convention, to fight, to get whatever. And he didn't even do that. Yeah. And not only did he endorse Joe Biden, he's literally going to work with him. And he's telling us that we're irresponsible for sitting idle on our hands and not vote for him. And I think that's an insult to the millions of people that worked for him, that literally put their lives on hold to go work for him for free.
Yeah.
Free.
And let's be honest, too, by the way,
for
fam.
him.
Tulsi said, I'm supporting Joe Biden and the back door. We know that Tulsi Gabbard is not going to be on any podcast with Joe. There's not going to be the Joe Biden campaign will not let Tulsi Gabbard come even close to him. Close to Joe Biden. Tulsi cannot get close to Joe at this point. So you're going to see Tulsi doing her own thing. Bernie Sanders is riding shotgun.
Yeah.
Like he's doing the same. He's riding shotgun. And, once again, like I said the other day, why can't they use the cover of the coronavirus to dip out? If I was Bernie Sanders, I would just, listen, my heart right now, I need to rest. I need to step the hell out. I'll show up to the Senate to make votes. Mm-hmm. But right now, I can't do this, Joe. I just, boom. Same thing. And it just sucks that, they both had to say the things they did. But once again, Tulsi just did what she said she's going to do and dipped out the door. Bernie is going even further. And these attacks against his old staff members, the people that we love, Bree, David, Serota, and all these, you know what I'm saying? It's like, these are the people that these are the people that the progressives loved. And these are the people you're sticking it into the eye. It's shameful, but maybe it helps because we got to move on. Maybe they're going to dump the dude like you did.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think for me, Bernie is always going to have a special place in my heart as somebody who, brought these ideas out, who made me be here today, who made me realize all these things. And that doesn't go away. His 40 years of talking about things nobody was talking about. But the last part is really, really where we needed him. And he didn't do it. And okay, fine. That's fine. You want us to do it. And we're going to do it. But now I'm adversarial to you. Now I'm in opposition to what you're preaching because you're asking everybody to vote for Joe Biden. And I want to start a movement of let's all vow not to vote for Joe Biden and campaign against him because he's going to be the destruction. Because wouldn't you agree that 4 more years of Trump is better? And I'm not picking a lesser of evil, but I'm saying in the long run, it would technically be better for our movement than maybe 12 years of a neoliberal, 4 of Biden and 8 of his VP. Wouldn't you say that would be far worse than 4 years of what we already know is Trump, who is unpredictable in some ways when it comes to the military-industrial complex, when it comes to the establishment. I'm no way, shape, or form advocating for Donald Trump. I'm not voting for him. But at the same time, on the big picture scheme, I just think, when Hillary Clinton ran against Bernie Sanders and then she lost to Trump, I think a lot of people woke up. I think people would have gone to sleep if she had won. Like they said, they would be at brunch. I think the same thing would likely happen. And then we'd get a worse person than Donald Trump after that.
That's the talk about Obama, that when the war movement went to sleep when Obama became president, and
Right.
as soon as he's gone,
Exactly.
you got the orange man who just doesn't sound as nice, he's not as elegant, but once again, his foreign policy in my mind was better than Obama's. Now I know there's a lot of people who think Trump's cabinet, and especially when the people he has in foreign policy, people like Elliot Abrams, who are just disastrous, but still, in my mind, he was better than Obama. And let me tell you something, Trump, I think, is better than Biden when it comes to foreign policy.
Oh, yeah, I agree with
especially
that.
Biden. I think that Trump wants to defeat China economically. Like he wants to outdo them. He had the trade war and stuff like that. But Biden wants to move most of our navy into the South fucking China Sea.
He wants to
and
war
threaten
with
World War
China,
III.
war with Russia, war with
He's
Iran.
crazy.
I mean, those are the things that play here. And so while I'm not advocating anybody to vote for either of the shit sandwiches, what I am saying is
Shit
we
sliders.
have an opportunity to make something. The time is ripe because people are angry. And now we have a bunch of angry Sanders supporters. We have people who aren't even political that are angry. And we have all these people that are angry. They need to do something with that anger and put it to work.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to
There
do.
was in the we got a couple of super chats. We'll get out of here. But in the movie, the Winston Churchill movie with
Oh, God, Winston
he was
Churchill.
like ripe. It is ripe, not right.
Did you just quote Winston Churchill after
In
we
the
had
movie.
a conversation?
Well, Gary Oldman did such a good job.
Oh,
Jur, thank you for the super chat contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch. I truly don't know what happened with Bernie. He isn't dumb. I just can't
know
help
he's
but
not,
think
yeah.
there's more to this.
I agree.
Yeah, he wants to be liked by
no,
Schumer.
I don't know. I don't think he's that.
He wants
he's
to be
not
Schumer
that
and Joe's
superficial.
friend.
No.
Yes, fam. Tiberius
not
Monk
superficial
84.
like
That's
that.
what Stoller said, and Stoller follows
Stoller's
his
wrong.
actions on the floor. And Stoller got pissed off more than anything when Bernie did what he did to Zephyr Teachout, and that was disgusting. Women, you don't do that. And to protect Joe Biden, Tiberius
He did it
Monk
multiple
84.
times
Thank you
now.
for the super chat contribution. But it doesn't make it right.
No,
it is
not at all.
always appreciated on the pouch. Before I go to bed, I'm throwing away my Bernie sign and my pins.
Aw.
He failed me. He failed you all, and I'm done. Third party is needed right now. Johnny, I backed off from the mic.
I'm not gonna throw anything away. I think it's part of history. And I think it's something that we're gonna look back and see sadly how
Fam, here's a Bernie sign.
don't rip it.
Somebody give Fee $20 right now to rip this sign up, and she
Oh
will
my
rip it up.
God.
Somebody,
Oh my
$20
God,
to see Fee rip a sign. Will you do it for $20?
No.
How much, Fee, to rip
How
the sign?
cheap do you think I am?
Fee.
YouTube takes like a third of our money.
Fee, how
anyway.
much to rip the sign?
Stop.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my God.
GDNPB. Tell me it looks like Bernie bought the sheet, the DNC push, because he caused Queen Hillary from getting her turn, and he went light and got out early. I don't think he got out early. I think the thing was
I don't
lost
want to be
on the second
conspiracy
Super Tuesday.
theorist, but I genuinely believe something behind the scenes is like part of it too. So
Here we go. How much, guys? There it is.
Stop. I'm not.
Fiorella will rip the
no,
sign.
I'm not gonna rip
How
the
much?
sign. I'm not. I don't have a price on ripping the sign.
Okay, but a felonious monk, if you want to get rid of your things, I understand. There are $100. Somebody said $100 and she'll rip it up. Listen, I wish I had $20 to rip it up. Chuck King, $20. There it goes.
Stop.
Come on.
No, I'm not.
Come on.
I said no. I'm
You can't do that, Chuck King. $20.
sorry, Chuck.
Chuck.
Do we have another sign?
We have 35, 40 of these signs, fam. Who are you kidding? We had these in every single part of the house.
Our friend came over and put a bunch of signs.
You
on
had a bunch of signs.
refrigerator, dishwasher. He had to see it all the time. I had way more Bernie signs than Tulsi signs. He had a Tulsi corner, and I had like the Bernie.
Yes, and I kind of
everywhere.
just took the stuff down, and I reacted very harshly. By the way, we had a troll out there and said that, Bernie is 100% of a traitor, and Tulsi is only 90% of a traitor. You progressives are funny. Trump 2020. Please, whatnot. We're
And
talking.
Trump isn't a traitor? Okay.
President
Okay.
Jafar says, burn that shit. Fam.
Okay, let's go before I need. No.
Chuck King says, and we'll do it together. Here, one right there. One right
Fam, I'm not doing it.
One right
Except that
there.
You got another super chat.
This is Don't Be Jimmy mindless. Hi, Fee. He says, don't be Jimmy Dore mindlessly trashing Bernie. I don't think he's mindlessly trashing Bernie. I think he's done it in the best way.
I don't think he's mindlessly doing it. Sometimes he gets all Jimmy Dore on it. I think the majority of his criticisms are fair. I don't agree with all of them. And I'll be the first to say it. And he's been on here and he's He's let us know how he feels and stuff. You know, I just think I think like he really did what he did and then he bowed out and now it's up to us and I see it more as an opportunity. Oh my God, stop. You're terrible. Oh my God.
There it is.
Good thing I have other signs.
We have plenty of those, but I did that for the people who paid, fam. I don't want to hear it no more. Hi, Fee.
I said I wasn't going to do
Pasta.
it. So.
I can't get it. I can't get you. You don't have to vote for Joe Biden. Out of my head, Trump and Biden are not the only options. That girl, CraigJardula@gmail.com, just in case you hadn't got that girl, Alice and I. Come on, Fee. Well, I did it for her. Listen, it's a breakup. It's still new. It's still fresh. We'll come back another day. We got many signs.
Yeah.
We don't have any Tulsi signs.
Oh, he's such a liar. There's a Tulsi sign
I
right
never
there.
said I would rip up
my
Tulsi.
God.
Nobody's paid me to rip up Tulsi. No.
Oh, see?
No.
Hypocrite.
I'm
not ripping up either side.
I don't believe Tulsi's deserving of a rip up.
Really? She still endorsed Biden. She could have not endorsed.
I know. Okay, so listen. Ready? Here we go. For endorsing Biden. Bad Tulsi. Now go. Bad Tulsi. Now you behave, okay? Not getting ripped up.
You're so ridiculous. You see? This is why I get mad. Because he I was I'm actually more pissed at Bernie than I was at her, but like he can't even do that.
She didn't have the power that he had.
She could have.
She couldn't. No,
she was a fighter. She was a fighter.
But she couldn't get a real audit for an election. She didn't have enough. She didn't reach the threshold for a lot of these places. She didn't have the money to get lawyers into play, to get actions rolling, to check these things. So, I mean, like I said, the Tulsi movement was a small, nuanced movement of Bernie Sanders. But, you know, it wasn't the time for her now. She needs to come on and fight another day. And she didn't.
Excuses.
No, I'm not ripping 90% of the sign up, Derek, because I'm not ripping it up, Jared. Shut up.
All right. We gotta get out of here. This is getting late night with Pasta Jardula.
Oh, where's our Pete sign? I'll rip that motherfucker up. I know we got a boo boo.
We don't have CIA. Do we have a Buttigieg sign?
So it's
really?
Somewhere.
Why?
Yeah. Because when we went to the convention, it was Buttigieg. It says I can
get
get
$2.
Go on, Pasta. Aloha.
Get that shit out of my house if we have that.
We'll find it later.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Let's
listen,
go.
there's almost 300 people watching. But it's late now. We did a show earlier.
We're beat.
ROKFIN. Buster Peak 21 says, "Oh, here it is. I'm upset, but both Tulsi hasn't called her supporters irresponsible." Okay, so here's the two things. First of all,
this fucker.
Okay, and you're right. She hasn't called her responsible. She said what she had to say and dipped out the door. She didn't even tell you to vote for him.
No,
that's
true. I agree.
You know
I agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, Bernie
that
says
doesn't
Republican.
mean you don't rip the sign
I'm
off,
telling
though.
everybody. The Progressive Conscience says, thanks for ripping it. We put our money, time, and energy. We donated. We phone banked and canvassed. Stay attached to the message, not the politician. You're right. And I'm so sorry. It's not that I'm just a Tulsi. I believe that Bernie Sanders is kind of done. Tulsi has a much brighter future. She'll be forgiven for saying that.
He's done after 40 years. Okay.
Rusty Hicks. The chair, Rusty Hicks. Let me tell you something, Rusty, why I'm about to rip up your sign, okay, like that.
I feel like I'm on that 70s show.
Nobody needs to have to pay me to rep the Rusty Hicks sign up, but for Rusty Hicks for chair, Rusty Hicks, you suck, okay? You have not made the Democratic Party any more progressive. You haven't pushed any of the leaders to fight for single-payer universal health care. You shun people out of the whole system. Your voting system sucks, and you haven't done anything, and plus, you banished Maria Estrada from the Democratic Convention. And for that, Rusty Hicks, you get that. We need a new leader. It should have been then Kimberly Ellis. It should be now Kimberly Ellis.
Not Daraka.
Oh, my God.
Sellouts.
Another sellout.
And I'm going to, this is Bood Edge. We should have ripped this a long time ago. It's already half ripped.
Buttigieg.
So, yeah, Mr. Wall Street Pete, Mr. Wall Street Pete, Mr. Ooh, yeah, keep that lanyard.
The lanyards we got to keep.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we don't.
CIA, I bet you he's going to run. I bet you he's going to run again. These motherfuckers want to keep the CIA.
Obama.
Look up how many CIA people ran in this past election. I'm sure that number will astound you. Here we go.
Oh, Pete
it feels
Buttigieg.
so good. Oh, yeah.
We're ripping up sides now.
This is therapy, you guys.
This is late night. Here, throw it at the camera, though.
Here
Yeah. Hey.
Someone's like, rip the fucking Tulsi sign.
Oh, I'm not ripping that Tulsi sign. Kiss my ass. 2016. Shame on Bernie.
Shame on
first
Tulsi.
time. Hashtag shame on us twice. 2020.
All right. No, guys, politicians are politicians. That's it. You know, we got to learn that lesson once and for all. Anyway, are we good?
We're good. We had a great show tonight, fam. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much. We ripped up signs. We had some therapy. Fiorella has validated her divorce of of Bernie Sanders. What's that?
Did you read the Brandon Adams?
Brandon Adams? Which one?
Super chat.
Did I miss it? Yeah, I said 2016, shame on Bernie first time. Hashtag shame on Bernie second time. Now, whoever this person is, that girl. What's up, that girl? CraigJardula@gmail.com. If it was only as easy as ripping up signs. No, but it's therapeutical, and that's what this show was all about. What's wrong with therapeutical?
Therapeutical is
Fam,
not a word.
therapeutical is a Brooklyn word, okay?
Oh, my God. Oh, Jesus. Okay,
it's
let's
therapeutical.
get up. I think it's too late for pasta.
It's when you snap your cuticles and it's therapeutic, that sound. It's therapeutical.
He's getting all Biden, all malarkey.
Okay, and Buster Peak 21. Tulsi talked about Assange. That's huge.
Oh, my God.
Tulsi was right on a lot of fucking issues, okay?
Of course she was.
All right, she could
So
have
was
endorsed
Bernie.
Bernie Sanders, Biden, and dipped out the back door. That's what she did. She ain't going on tour with the fucking man like your ex-boyfriend.
All right.
And is Tulsi going after any of her old people, any of her people that said anything?
No.
Even with the whole thing with Jai, when she says that was incorrect, she was very nice about it.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
That
Shouldn't
doesn't mean
throw
you
anybody under
shouldn't
the
rip
bus.
out the side. That doesn't mean you shouldn't rip the side if you rip the Bernie one. Anyway, it's okay. You can make all the excuses you want. All right, guys.
Thank you very much for watching us tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
I'm
We
gonna
will
my
have
daily glass of wine.
Poppy Chuli, Chuck King. There's like $20. Chuck King is trying to give you the.
Ooh, I already ripped the side. That's for
I
you.
ripped the sign. Oh, Chuck, you ain't getting.
Oh,
we are sounding out for Pasta Jardula.
Oh, cop out, Fiorella.
Johnny, Sue, and Eve on the ones and twos. We love
Toll
you,
sell
Chuck King.
out.
Convo out.
See.